This hole goes down further than the Empire State Building is tall. It was carved entirely by water. It can swallow a small lake in under an hour. And once a year, a small number of scientists rope into it on purpose. This is what they go down to find. You're a glacial hydrologist. Most people have never heard the job title, and almost nobody could guess what it actually involves. Your job, in one sentence, figure out where the meltwater goes. The Greenland ice sheet is 1.7 million square kilometers of ice, bigger than Mexico. Every summer, it melts, and the water has to go somewhere. It goes into holes like this one. Glaciologists call them moulins, vertical shafts, sometimes hundreds of meters deep, that funnel meltwater from the surface of the ice sheet straight down to bedrock. They form when a crack fills with water under enough pressure to drive itself through half a mile of solid ice. Once open, a moulin can drain an entire lake, sometimes tens of millions of gallons, in a matter of hours. Here's why it matters. When that water reaches the bottom of the ice sheet, it doesn't just disappear. It gets between the ice and the rock underneath, and it lubricates it. The ice sheet starts to slide faster. If the entire Greenland ice sheet melted, global sea levels would rise by 6 meters. 6 meters would put major parts of Miami, Mumbai, Shanghai, and London underwater. Nobody knew how fast this process actually moved because nobody had ever measured the inside of a moulin directly. For decades, climate models had to guess at how much water these shafts could hold based on satellite images of the surface alone. The guesses were wrong, so a small group of scientists decided to stop guessing. They were going to go inside and measure it directly. Eventually, climbing reaches its limit. The shaft floods completely, and this is the water table inside the glacier itself. It is the level where all that surface meltwater finally collects before it spreads out beneath the ice. To go further, you do not climb, you dive. Glacial hydrologist and cave diving instructor Jason Gully has done exactly that. He descended into the flooded base of a moulin in full scuba gear. He became one of a tiny handful of people who have ever physically entered the plumbing system of an ice sheet. This is genuinely one of the most extreme dive environments on Earth. Water temperature hovers just above freezing. There is zero ambient light beyond what you carry. Ice overhead can calve with no warning. A current can change without notice as meltwater pressure shifts elsewhere in the glacier. If anything goes wrong, there is no direct route to the surface except back the way you came through hundreds of feet of ice. This work is genuinely dangerous, and nobody on these expeditions pretends otherwise. In summer, moulins are flooded with raging meltwater and almost impossible to safely enter. In winter, the risk shifts because large chunks of ice can break loose from the walls and fall without warning. Anchors have to be drilled fresh for every expedition because the ice itself is constantly moving and reshaping. There is no rescue team that can reach you 500 feet down inside a glacier. The team that goes in is the only team there is, and they go anyway because the alternative, not knowing how fast the ice sheet is sliding toward the ocean, is a bigger risk. The direct measurements confirmed what the models have been hinting at for years. These shafts hold far more water than satellite images alone could ever show. The size of a moulin can change by around 10% in a single day and can double across one melting season. That single piece of field data, gathered by people who physically went down there with rope and dive gear, has fed directly into the climate models used to predict how quickly Greenland's ice will slide into the sea. Every projection of future sea level rise that uses Greenland ice sheet dynamics is, in some small but real way, built on numbers that came from inside that blue shaft. The next time you see a headline about sea level rise or a number about how fast Greenland is melting, somewhere in that number is a person who rappelled into the dark, listened to half a mile of ice creaking above their head, and came back up with the measurement that made the science a little less of a guess. They didn't do it for the view, even though the view is genuinely the strangest, bluest, most extraordinary thing most of them will ever see. They did it because somebody had to actually go and look.